Chief Executive sitting in front of me here, Stephen Mulholland, warning that Britain's £530 billion construction and infrastructure pipeline is starting to crack. We've got things like skill shortages, falling investment, delivery delays, threatening to derail government growth plans. Stephen, we've spoken before, but it's great to have you in the office. I know in the studio. I know you have been in construction plant hire for many, many years. You're now part of the association here. When you look at what the government is trying to do, when you look at what the country is trying to do to build all these homes, to build all these businesses and new organisations looking for places to work, what do you think? Because you've been talking to government for quite a while about this. Are they listening properly? Are they taking the action that needs to happen? When the budget comes up in a couple of weeks, will you be a happy man, do you think?
Yeah, no, probably not. Our story begins after the last budget and in the run-up to that, when the announcements were made about NI charges, about BPR, inheritance tax.
What's BPR, sorry?
And business property relief.
Okay.
What we went away and done, we found out that 95% of our members and closer to 99% of the wider industry are independently family-run businesses. It's not the household names that you maybe see that do the actual work. They manage and develop. So these guys do all the work, and we thought, hang on, they're going to have a problem. I was one of those businesses up until 18 months, 2 years ago, because they don't have the cash to pay those bills at all. Create a confidence problem. There's an announcement of 1.5 million new homes. The money that was generated through those potential tax increases was already spent. So that money had gone to various things, public sector, NHS, without any productivity, efficiency gains. I keep throwing in the Chagos Islands, which everyone laughs at, but it brings it up to roughly 100 billion, which isn't going back into the real drivers for growth. So no one was listening. We asked government after that budget, where did they get the figures from? We didn't get an answer, and that was the Treasury. We then got to the new year, and there was the launch of the or the rollout of the Comprehensive Spending Review, the National Infrastructure Plan, all of this on top of the 1.5 million homes. Now that should be great news, but if that announcement had have came before all the tax increases, if some of that money had been used to fund that growth, then we'd be in a much better place.
And Labour politically really bet the farm on growth. They want growth in the economy, and construction is somewhere where it can come from. But the report really paints a stark picture. 250,000 additional construction workers are needed to deliver planned projects. Nearly 500,000 are due to retire in the next 15 years. I mean, we've been talking today about the number of people in universal credit, for example, 8 million people out of work benefits. And many of those people, some of them anyway, could certainly work in construction, but actually that's not going to happen overnight. It would take a long time, and you want them to work. You want them to have the skills and to have the wherewithal to help you in your industry. But if 250,000 are going to need them, and 44% of firms reporting labour shortages restricting activity, that's the worst of any major UK sector.
Yes, it is. What I have to say is we commissioned this report after the last budget, and it was because we needed to get the data, we needed to know where we stood, we needed to understand what was behind the monetary value, the 800 projects that are part of this £530 billion potential fund that could help, that could fund those projects. That 530 billion isn't there. The report states roughly 285 might be there. That's still leaving a lot to get through. There's only 14% of the jobs of those 800 that are actually, as of July's figures, it will be updated again December, January, that are actually ready to go. So what's happening is the supply chain, the pipeline of work, it's just not there at the moment. So people are actually suffering. You can't take people on and train for building works that aren't going on. You're absolutely spot on about the figures that were mentioned. It was 250,000 shortages for infrastructure. There's 500,000 going to retire out the industry in the next 10, 15 years. And then we've got the houses, the fabled 1.5 million new houses to build as well. So the industry is getting used as a political football, and that's where we've said, well, look, if all this goes ahead, we can be a real driver for growth, because for every £1 that's, well, quite simply, if that 100 billion could be found and spent, that would generate 315 billion between now and 2039 for the economy, so it's not taking on any more debt. But the problem they have just now is getting everything through, planning the regulatory issues, and then finding the funding. It's going to need a lot of private partnership input, and it's it needs confidence. We need proper policies that can help growth.
Confidence is a major part of this, and we have a lot of viewers and listeners who will be, they'll be standing there at this moment on their feet, doing the kind of jobs that you're very familiar with. You're a doer, Stephen, and you represent a lot of people who are doers. There will be people in their van now going to a job or coming home from their job at the moment, people plastering a wall or building something, and they will say, "What about the confidence? Where's the confidence? What kind of confidence do you have in government at the moment?" Because I know you've been into some government buildings, you've seen what's happened there. I mean, tell me, this is sort of a reasonably new thing for you as well in the last couple of years since you've taken over the Construction Plant Hire Association. What do you see when you're in those buildings, in those government buildings, when you're talking to government ministers, trying to get your case across and say all this stuff that needs to be said?
An absolute lack of understanding of how things work, a real lack of urgency, that these people you've just described need work now. We need projects starting today to keep everyone busy. The phrase around our industry that's getting used at the moment, Peter, is jam for tomorrow. It's all jam for tomorrow, it's all promises. Personally, where it snapped with me was the build baby build when the new housing secretary came on, because we know it's not happening within the industry. We know there's a lot of work to get done. We need good engagement with the supply chain. This Oxford Economics report has been sent out to all the ministers that matter, a lot of the civil service. There's far too many layers, Peter. There's so many things holding things up. If you can imagine, the meat and the pie are the guys that are out there doing the work, the boys and girls that are running the jobs, the hands-on labour, the management, they're at the sharp end. But the layers and layers of regulation, of planning, bureaucracy, politics, it's actually been a real eye-opener.
And interestingly, with young people as well, apprenticeship completion has slumped to 53% pay for young workers in construction, falling below the wage rates in the retail sector. So if you're saying to a young person, are you, they're hard jobs that the people you represent are often, they're tough jobs. There are people standing outside. I've seen them outside this building, for example, working on the bridge outside this building, where they're, it's the middle of the night sometimes. It's wet, it's windy. And you're saying to someone, actually, we're going to pay you less than if you're standing in a nice warm branch of Next or whatever behind a till. That is not a good thing. And when you're saying complete your apprenticeship, well, where's the incentive to do that, especially if you're not necessarily going to have work that you can rely upon at the end of it? So
that's the important thing, is the work that you can rely on at the end of it. If you see out an apprenticeship, and there's now certain trades that we're able to offer shorter term skills training, which will get you up to the mark to get onto sites for various things, some plant operations ones which we're involved in are hugely successful. If you can get the youngsters to see out that time, there is a great career ahead of them. There really is. I've been there and done it myself from being an apprentice. I know lots of other people that run successful family businesses now.
So you started as an apprentice yourself?
That have managed to succeed. And they're the people that are getting hit hardest by these policies, and tax policies in particular, which PLCs, private equity, foreign businesses don't have to, they'll not be affected by any of this. And yet these guys are
it must be so frustrating for you. I mean, I'm frustrated listening to it. You're living it, Stephen. It must be so frustrating for you going into the Treasury, talking to senior ministers, talking to senior civil servants, saying, this is basic stuff. This is really straightforward. Get people to finish their apprenticeships, help them do that, pay them a reasonable wage, give some certainty about what the work will be. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm an interviewer with an arts degree, sitting here listening to you, reflecting this back to you, and you know all this, and you must be tearing your hair out.
Yeah, people who run their own businesses across the country within our sector and other sectors, because you can draw a comparison with farmers as well. The people who provide the infrastructure, all the things we take for granted, whether it's guys that know nothing about building and construction infrastructure, the minute you switch on your computer, that Wi-Fi starts with a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
This building started with a hole in the ground. The people that feed us, that's the people that are getting hit hardest. It's massively frustrating. There needs to be reversals. You asked about the budget coming up. We want to see a reverse in NIC. We would like to see a reverse on the inheritance tax and BPR changes that's been made. We need a really concrete pipeline of works coming through. This report, there's a lot of good minds behind this report, and they can actually really help as well.
Okay.
And that's what this is about. It's not about just kicking the industry, kicking the government. Far from it. It's about promoting the industry to government to pull their finger out with a sense of urgency and find some funding and find models that actually work, rather than sitting thinking, oh, we tried PFI before, it didn't work out brilliantly. Yeah, But
and
that's
getting
private.
some of the growth they keep talking about and saying they want for this country, which is at such a low level. Stephen, great to talk to you. Great to have you in the studio. You're
Peter,
welcome anytime.
thanks for having me.
Stephen Mulholland, there, Chief Executive of the Construction Plant Hire Association. What do you make of this? Maybe you're one of the people affected by this. Maybe you're one of the people listening right now in your van, or you're on a job, or you're on a building site and you have this in your AirPods. Whatever you think, you let me know.